Hello and welcome to So Many Games, independent video game coverage from a passionate group of people. Please check out everything we do at somanygames.co.uk. My name is Jason, and for episode 8, we take a deep dive into Hollow Knight Silksong, a game many have been waiting years for and one that's turned quite decisive for many through its challenging combat and exploration. The first half of this episode will be spoiler free, but after a musical break, there will be spoilers aplenty, so please be careful, fellow pilgrims. Joining me to share their experiences of journeying through Farloom are two of my fellow So Many Games crew members, Matt and Erik. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's good to be back with you again, Jason, for another conversation. Like you said before we started, I have a lot on my chest as well that I want to talk about with this game and just commiserate together. Misery loves company, so this is great that we get to do this together.
Yeah, and I, as we go through our conversation, it will start with a lot of misery, but the misery does turn into a positive. I feel, for me personally, which we'll definitely dig into as we chat about this game. But before we do that, before we get into the meat of the show, I'd love for you to tell the good listeners about your other projects, because you don't just write amazing reviews for So Many Games. You've also got your own podcasts, and if anyone's listening that doesn't know about these, then they need to know. So there's a good chance just to let them know.
Hey, I'm Matt. I'm one of the original So Many Games writers before it was even So Many Games, actually. Yeah. I would say my main other thing that I'm doing, my most outwardly proud thing that I'm proud of, is Bit Harmony, a video game music podcast. You might hear the words "a video game music podcast" and think that's like for the real heads. It's not. Me and my co-host Seth, we are not any kind of experts on music. We're just we're a couple passionate goobers, overly emotional, and we kind of relate video game music back to our own shared experiences and lives, and we just kind of go from there. It's a very hangouty vibe. We just take breaks for video game music, essentially.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a quality podcast. I'm a fortnightly listener, and it's always a highlight for when it drops, because you and Seth have really got a great chemistry together, and you two just really work really well on the show.
Yeah, and if you have ever wanted to listen to a 4-hour podcast about Super Monkey Ball music, that's where you got to go.
I guess that's probably the only downer for some people. Not for me personally, where your episodes do go quite long. But every minute is a pure entertainment, so it's all good. And I know you don't like to beat too much about it, but obviously you still do Critical Diversion as well every week, where you just talk into a microphone about whatever games you're playing at the moment or whatever's going on in the gaming world. And that is also a great listen, and I always normally tune in every week for that too.
Well, hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate the praise for that.
And Erik, why don't you remind the good listeners about your podcast?
Yeah, of course. We don't dive as much into the music unless it's really supporting the narrative, which in a lot of cases it does, and this game certainly does. Our podcast is a book club for gaming narratives. It's called Pages of Play, where we really examine the story and the script and the writing of a game. And kind of similar to what you said, Matt, we do apply it back to our lives and just how it kind of changes us, affects us as people, which has been some really great conversation. We take questions from listeners, which has been really fun, just to kind of answer some burning questions about the game and talk through that. And yeah, we've had a really good time. There's been, especially this year, there's just hit after hit in terms of games, and we've had a really good time diving into the stories, the writing of these games. So yeah, listeners, if you're interested in kind of the narrative side of gaming, we talk a little bit about the mechanics. I'd say one of my co-hosts is a game designer, so he nerds out on that a little bit, but we really focus on the world building and storytelling. If that's something that interests you, we'd love for you to come on over and check out Pages of Play. That's kind of our main format. We also do another format where we interview folks about their favorite video game stories. That's also been really fun for us. Lots of other podcasters, folks that we have kind of in community on Discord. Various Discords have joined the show to talk about some of their favorite video game stories of all time. and that's been really fun as well. So yeah, that's Pages of Play.
Yeah, it's a wonderfully, normally intelligent conversation on your podcast. So always come to your show with hope and probably expectation of learning something from these games, or being made to look at these games in a different angle to what I was. And I normally do walk away with that in mind. And I think that's why I'm so excited for your Old Skies episode that's coming up, because that one, that game in particular is one of my favorites of the year. And I can't wait to hear your thoughts on the narrative in that game.
Yeah, oh, it's such a good game. And you interviewed Sally, which is really, really cool that you got a chance to speak with her. Just to hear her voice as like a real person, but then know her in the game too as Fia was really cool. But it's an incredibly written game and a really strong story. I just finished it not that long ago. It's one of those games where afterwards you just like sit and digest what just happened to you for a while. But I loved it. And we're going to have a really good conversation around the themes and characters and really just the overall script of that game. So yeah, I think Jason, you kind of told me about that game at first. So thanks for putting me onto that one. I'm really glad we got a chance to play it.
Yeah, no worries. Anytime. Always like to pass on any games I think would be interesting to people. So I'm glad you found that one good. Well, let's get into Silksong. I'd like to start with my perception of Hollow Knight Silksong and the lead up to its release, because I tried Hollow Knight a few years ago, and I spent about 10 hours with the game, and I kind of fell off it. I kind of bounced because I didn't like the distances between the benches, and I found the difficulty level a little bit too high for my liking at that time. So I kind of bounced. I wasn't really that interested in Silksong through all of the years that people were hoping it was going to be released. And I didn't have any interest in Silksong. And even when that trailer dropped with the release date on it, I was like, cool. I'm glad people are going to get to finally play the game. And it was on the day of release. And I guess maybe it's a little bit of FOMO in there. Not too much, though, because I read in one of the Discords that I'm in, and someone in there said it's a game of the moment. It's a game of a generation. And that kind of, that kind of stuck in my brain a little bit. And I was like, I guess it is actually. It's like a Breath of the Wild moment. People are going to be talking about this game. There's going to be a lot of discussion about this game, and I think I'd kind of like to be in that discussion a little bit, and just see what happens in the game. So I did buy it eventually after all the storefronts recovered from the traffic. Yeah, I completely invested as soon as I started the game, and I was so happy that I did this, and so happy that I started this game, because since that launch day, for the last 2 and a bit weeks, it's been a true adventure, and I'm really glad I did it. So I had this experience. It's going to be one of those. It's going to be one of those times I look back on and go, yeah, that was cool. That was a cool time when I played this game. So for that, I'm just eternally grateful that I decided on that day to pick it up. But I'm interested in your perspectives on Silksong, on Hollow Knight. How your lead up to this game was. Was you excited? Did it bring you more than you expected, or what was your journey?
So you call it FOMO. If you start using the word zeitgeist in place of FOMO, you get a few nerd points. Like, people look at you a little bit differently. Because I'm kind of with you. I liked Hollow Knight. That's not doing it enough justice. I think Hollow Knight is a great video game, but it never hit the highs for me that I think it does for a lot of other people. Never hit me as like this is a paradigm shifting masterpiece the way it did for other people, right? Mm-hmm. So I was interested in Silksong because I think Hollow Knight's a great game, but I wasn't frothing at the mouth with anticipation for it. And yeah, it's because it was a zeitgeist thing. I knew the moment that release date dropped, all of my friends in various group chats and Discords were all talking about it. I'm like, okay, I kind of, even if I wasn't interested, I kind of feel obligated because that's all my group chat is going to be about for about 2 weeks. And then we got Hades 2 coming, which is going to be the next zeitgeist game for our groups. And yeah, I'm with you. I absolutely would have checked it out eventually, but I don't know that I would have been day one on it if it wasn't for that zeitgeist flavor. And yeah, to me, this is a straight improvement on Hollow Knight in every single regard. Like, Hollow Knight to me is like a 9 out of 10, very, very, very great game. Silksong is masterpiece levels to me.
What about yourself, Erik?
As I said at the beginning of this podcast, I love narrative games, and they're usually never very challenging unless you consider clicking through dialogue options to be challenging. So Hollow Knight was never a game that was really on my radar. I heard people playing it, but I was like, I didn't think there was much of a story to it. And I kind of knew that it had a silent protagonist. So Hollow Knight kind of skipped past me, I should say, in terms of that zeitgeist that you're talking about, Matt. However, at some point in my YouTube feed, I remember seeing a lore deep dive video on Hollow Knight, and then that's when I thought, hey, there's something here. There's definitely something that these creators have written into this world. There is a larger story happening, even if it's not focused on the protagonist of this game. So I thought I would give it a try. And, the rest is history. Once you play, I feel like a Team Cherry game, you just get so enraptured by the exploration, by the world building, by the music. And so that's what happened to me with Hollow Knight. The story, I would say, still didn't have a strong click with me, just because it's very hard to piece together. It's all kind of backstory and lore and what happened in these different locations you're visiting and the history of them. There wasn't really a narrative front and center. It was all kind of, I would say, happening behind the scenes. But I really liked Hollow Knight. I thought it was a really good game. Similar to you, Matt, I thought it was a great game, but it wasn't a masterpiece in my mind because it didn't have that story that really was compelling to me as I kind of got through that game. So when it comes to Silksong, it's a completely different story, and I mean that quite literally. The writing in Silksong is top notch. It's incredible. I love the protagonist of Hornet. I think she has such a very bold personality, and that comes through in the way that she is written, and just her journey kind of follows the same, and I'll talk about it later, that kind of ludonarrative resonance aspect of her pilgrimage is hard and arduous in the story. And that's how it is for the gamer who's playing it too. It's very challenging to get to the Citadel. And so just the ways that the developers had thought, again, they still have really strong lore building and world building in this game, but they brought the centerpiece of the protagonist narrative to the top. And I love that I actually got to engage with that. And there's a really strong thread written throughout of Hornet's story and what she's doing. It's a grand mystery in a lot of ways, which is really cool. So that's kind of my background. I liked Hollow Knight. I love the gameplay of Hollow Knight and kind of the world building of Hollow Knight, but didn't find the narrative compelling. And now this is all of that better, and then also with a strong narrative. So I agree. This is an incredible game, and I've really, despite suffering through a lot of it, I've really, really enjoyed what I've played.
Yeah, it's funny you say, you end with that, Erik. I was always apprehensive about starting Silksong because I knew Hollow Knight was difficult in a lot of places. I'd always heard about these particular bosses that people had problems with, and you had that whole section. I can't remember what it's called now. Is that path? The path of pain
or something?
The thing, wasn't it? And
that's the whole game for me. But yeah.
I was like, oh god, that just sounds too much. That just sounds not very much fun. And I was worried Silksong was going to be the same, and obviously it is in a lot of places. But I think I liked Silksong more how it starts, because it's definitely more of a friendlier welcome for players than Hollow Knight was. And I think that's probably one of the other issues I had with Hollow Knight, was that first section of the game, which I think passes 10 hours, really doesn't click with a lot of people. And apparently after, not long after that, it just kind of opens up and becomes a much friendlier game. But so when I started Silksong, I was pleasantly surprised that it felt more welcome to less skilled players than people that I thought would like this game. And so I was quite merrily getting through a lot of the game, and I was feeling quite good about it because I was succeeding and everything. But obviously it hits a point, and I think that point was a location in Greymore, where I felt like the difficulty kind of ramped up. From that point onwards, with the bosses and everything, I started to have a lot more problems. And obviously, this has been a big discourse in the game with the difficulty level and no accessibility options or anything like that. And, a lot of people have felt like they've been pushed out of the game because they don't feel like they've got the skill. Trust me, I do not have the skill for what this game asks of you sometimes. And I think what I've learned playing the game is that Team Cherry have kind of added accessibility options into the game in some formal manner, because if you're struggling, then there are lots of options in the game that will make them easier for you. You've just got to go out there and find them as you explore. And I think that's one of the things that really clicked for me at a certain point, where I'll mention in our spoiler section. And yeah, it kind of made me think about the game in a different way, especially with the bosses as well. I kind of was doing the old proper run in, slash, trying to avoid their attack, run in, slash. And I was failing. Obviously, there's a reason why I was failing, because you have to approach these bosses in a different way than how you probably approach a lot of other bosses in different games. And in the end, I started learning the patterns more so. Dying, learning a bit more, dying. But then eventually I did them, and I was like, wow, I can actually play these really challenging games. You just got to pay that little bit of attention to them. That was kind of my journey with the difficulty. And I can understand why people feel like this game is too hard for them. But I think if they properly jumped in and properly explored the game, then I think they'll find a lot of things that would make it easier.
I think you're totally right in that. I guess I wouldn't call it an accessibility feature, but you're right in that they want you to, I think, at some point, hit this impassable wall, wherever that is for you, and then to say, okay, I have to go somewhere else and figure it out. I will maybe make people mad with this. I play a lot of games of this type, a lot of Souls likes and whatnot. I'm that dude. What I'm about to say, I'm not saying it in a bragging way. I don't view being good at single player games as something to be particularly proud of. I found the difficulty of this to be basically just right. It could use a few tweaks, mostly with a couple bosses in particular, and maybe some with the run back a little bit. But yeah, I really appreciate that very organic difficulty of the game is so big, probably bigger than you're thinking it is, that there's so much to go explore and look for and find and do. If you are really, really struggling with one particular boss or platforming section, you can just go and get rocked by another one. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my take is maybe a little bit different. Because, Matt, you just mentioned, maybe there could be some tweaks. I just wish Team Cherry and, however long, like the 7 years, right, making this game just gave that to people, like the opportunity to tweak it just to bring more people in. I would say I appreciate when games are for everyone, whatever your skill level, whatever your needs are. And this game was very much, I feel like, Team Cherry designing for, they had a very specific experience in mind, which I think is fine to have, and that can be the intended design and experience. But I think if they would have given some more accessibility options, I'm very pro accessibility options, that this could have been for more people. There's just going to be folks who don't have some of the hand-eye coordination, or maybe even some physical limitations in their own ability to execute on this game. It does require very precise timing. I think we'll get maybe more into the iframes at some point, if people have talked about how short of a window it is after you get hit that you can get hit again. And you mentioned the run backs. I think there's a lot of parts of this game that are designed to be difficult and challenging. And even though, like I said, there's a narrative reason for that, you're kind of along this pilgrim's journey, I do feel like it wouldn't have been, they were kind of making this game at their own pace, and what I've heard from interviews, which is really cool, that they were just we made this game, we weren't pressured to get it done at a certain time, and when it was done, we just released it. That's kind of the story from Team Cherry, which is pretty cool. But if they're making the game at their pace, I think putting in some accessibility options is definitely could have been doable. Yeah, and I think a good example of this for me is another amazing game I played this year is Clair Obscur, and it had some Souls-like influence as well with the parrying in particular, and that was you can have some really challenge in those parry windows for Clair Obscur, but they gave you kind of some opportunities in the menus to tweak that and make that parry window longer. There's some like QTEs in it that you can like turn on auto. So I just appreciate when there are settings that you can tweak to make it fit your own ability. And I know that that's not going to be for a lot of like the hardcore fans, the like true experience of playing Silksong. I think that's fine, right? Like you can have your true experience. Like by all means, don't tweak it for yourself or others who want that. But I think for the folks who could benefit from dialing it back a little bit, that would make more people be able to get to the credits, you know, and experience what this game has to offer. There's so much good out there to explore. And I feel like I wish more people could. And there is a barrier with some of the difficulty and punishment that's designed in this game that I feel like people are running up against.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. Yeah, I'm always for accessibility features, especially when they're well thought out ones, right? Nine Souls, a game that came out was that last year, which if I'm honest, I think I like Nine Souls like a little bit more than Silksong even. I think that game is amazing.
Yeah.
It's way harder than Silksong, but it has damage slider. Like I can set my damage higher, I can set the damage I take lower and stuff. And despite me playing all these types of games, I made it to the true final boss of Nine Souls. I tried it once and I instantly turned my damage received meter all the way down. I was not dealing with that. So yeah, I'm always for accessibility features. Again, as long as they're well thought out. I don't like it when it's just like, hey, you're invincible and can just like run through walls. I have a friend, he might listen to this at some point, so I don't want to trash talk him too much, but I recommended him Tunic because I knew he would like the puzzles and the music and the atmosphere of it, but I knew he wasn't really going to be able to hang with the combat, which the combat's pretty rough on top of being hard in Tunic, right? And he kind of just instantly, I let him know that there's accessibility features if he needed them, but he kind of just turned them on instantly, and then he just wandered around the world, and he messaged me. He's like, yeah, I'm an hour in and I don't know what I'm doing. He sent me a screenshot. And I was like, how are you an hour in, but you're in like the third area of the game? Because he just turned the accessibility features on and just wandered around, you know?
Interesting.
So I've run into accessibility features kind of like not shepherding the player well, you know? But I think there's a very easy approach with Silksong. Again, it's just as simple as damage sliders, damage received sliders. There's plenty of stuff they could do. Even mechanically, there's stuff they could do that we can get into later. But yeah, mostly when I say it's just right, I say it's just right for the freaks out there like me. But yeah, it could use some work for sure.
I think even like just have the normal mode and then have a story mode or something where the damage is a little less fierce that people can choose over the normal mode. And I think that would just take a lot of sting out of it, you know. Have a story mode, have the damage taken down to 1 instead of 2, and a couple of other refinements. And I think the problem goes away. I think this conversation would go away. I think if they included that, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. And then that's it, I think. But I don't know. Like in some way, I'm quite glad that there's no accessibility options in the game. You know, I think I would have been that person in some ways. I think I would have gone, yeah, kind of sod this. I can't do this boss. Invincibility on, or, you know, damage down to whatever. And I think I kind of would have cheated myself out a little bit of the experiences that I got by constantly dying, by constantly running back, constantly learning, and constantly dying, and then but then finally succeeding and defeating the boss. And you know, I guess some of the environmental enemies I feel like are a bit harsh, you know, because all I want to do is explore. And there are certain sections of the game, especially in the latter part, where they do give you a lot of damage, and they kept killing me. And I'm like, God damn it, just leave me alone. I just want to explore this area and see what's here, and you keep killing me. But yeah, I think that's my solution. So Team Cherry, if you're listening, just put in a story mode. Problem solved.
Yeah, I think that it is a fine line, right? Of like the point that they're trying to make, even the narrative, is patience and persistence and learning the patterns. And again, like throwing yourself at this again and again. And when you succeed, there's just this payoff, right? That you feel of like, I did it. I mastered that. And you wouldn't feel that same sense of mastery if you were just invincible. So I agree with that. I think maybe I think it's subtle tweaks, right? Like instead of some things causing 2 masks of damage, have them cause 1, you know, like you still then have the challenge, but it's just not as extreme. So just give the players some option to tone it back some, and I think they could still have like everyone, like I think this is a phrase I've used before, everyone's Everest is different, meaning like to climb Everest for some people is like all the way to the top. For others, it's like even if they make it halfway, that's worth celebrating, right? So I feel like you just providing players an opportunity to find whatever that Everest is for them, and it's not going to be the same for everybody, is a good ambition. I know it's not easy to pull off, and again, I really respect Team Cherry for the game that they created. It's incredible, and their intended experience is working for me, and I've enjoyed it. But yeah, I think that's how I think about the accessibility.
I mean, I get it. In this day and age, I think accessibility options should just be standard. And there's still companies out there that don't embrace them. Nintendo are terrible at accessibility options in their games, but they should be there. But like I said, Team Cherry kind of have put them in there. You just gotta find them and use them well.
I'll say it wouldn't even be an accessibility thing. Where I found the biggest success in Silksong when I was struggling with a boss was just changing my build, usually the tools, but also sometimes the crests. And I think just a simple tweak to how the shard system works would do wonders.
Yeah.
Like either get rid of the shard system or make refilling the tools cost way less. I think that would change a lot of the conversation around the game with just an in-game design choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one, especially at the moment because I am on the boss at the end of Act 2 and I've lost all my shards and, all my tools have been depleted. And at the moment, I'm just trying it, bare bones without any tools available to me. And, I'm getting to a certain point, but I keep dying. So I feel like I probably should go and farm some shards, but it's frustrating, because all I want to do is just go back to the boss and have another attempt. But no, I've now got to go and farm for shards so I can get some more tools. And the enemies don't really drop that many shards either. You've really got to work hard to get a decent amount of shards. And that is quite a frustrating element to the game.
I used the Architect crest, which is built completely around using tools. Like you can equip up to three red tools at once. So I was constantly using my shards. So what I ended up doing, I had so much rosaries by the end of the game. I just bought like 20 of those shard packs from the store. Yeah. And I was just constantly using those instead.
I mean, I always thought, up until quite recently, probably yesterday, that the vendors only sold one shard bundle, and then the stock was depleted. And I think I was doing the boss before the one I'm on now, and I was like, right, I need to stock up. So I was going to go around all these vendors and just stock up on shards. I don't have to worry about it. I'll have plenty of tools, and then I should be good to go. And I went to the one in Belhart. I bought one, and I thought, oh, there's another one, and I just kept buying them. I didn't realize. I don't know. I didn't realize that I could just keep buying them and buying them and buying them. And I had quite a really strong supply of shards, and then I went back to that boss and then did it first time. I was like, great, without any tools. And I was like, okay, wonderful. Which was great in a way because then the next boss came along and then I just depleted them all on that one. So what do you think about the rosaries though? Was you frustrated by the way in which the rosaries element of the game was implemented?
Me personally, no. If I'm honest, I only lost like 100 rosaries the entire run. The only time I was in real danger of like permanently losing my rosaries, I just used one of those silk eater thingies to get my cocoon back instantly. I was in the mist. I don't know if you've been into the mist, Jason, but I was pretty deep in there and I died and I was like, I don't really feel like going back in there right now. So I just used my silk eater thing. The only thing I wouldn't even say frustrated by, I think it's funny. And I think gamers aren't always the best at like laughing at themselves, especially in a hard game like this. When the rosaries are hanging and you have to whack them off the wall and they almost always will fall down a pit or onto spikes. Like sometimes I'm like, you could have just given me that. You didn't have to turn it into a joke on my part, but otherwise I was fine with it.
That's why I have the magnet auto equipped actually.
Yeah, I was going to say
magnet.
As soon as I found that, it's been a constant equipped item.
Except for bosses, I don't really need it, right? Because they don't drop rosaries. But yeah, that actually, even as rosaries are falling, it'll grab them and pull them back before they even fall, which is really cool.
Did quite like, I don't know, it became a fun little game for me just to run as fast as I can and just see how long it would take the rosaries to catch up with me.
Yeah, that was fun too. Yeah, the rosary system was rough at first. I feel like with a lot of things in this game, in the beginning, it kind of feels overwhelming because, one, you don't know how many rosaries are out there. They feel pretty sparse early on, even just collecting them. And yeah, stuff like you said, Matt, about the Silk Eater, it's like you don't really know that's a possibility in the beginning. I feel like Team Cherry does give you, like, I think there was a point made earlier, throughout, they've like hidden throughout the game different like tools and power-ups and things that help you with some of the frustration points, like losing rosaries, right? You can do a Silk Eater to retrieve your cocoon and get those back, but it's like you have to find that. There's a specific NPC who will keep making those for you if you go back to them, you know. So there's stuff like that in this world that's like hidden there for people, but you do have to like make your way there to get ahead of that like power curve in some regards. But yeah, as I got deeper into the game, I think the element that really changed the rosary hunt for me was the fact that you can string them up, which was really cool. I'm glad they gave you that option. It costs a little bit more, like you lose a little bit of rosaries in just stringing them up, but there's a couple vendors early on. I think you can do like maybe 60 strung up, and later it's 120, so you can pay to have these strung up, but then if you die, you don't lose them. So I kind of do almost like play it like like the going in and coming out of the tide. I'll like run out and do a bunch of things, but once I feel my pockets getting heavy with rosaries, I'll run back and go to a vendor and have them all strung up just to give me peace of mind, because I find that I play with a lot of anxiety when I have a ton of rosaries, because I'm just so worried about dying. And I do have at this point quite a few Silk Eaters, so it's not even that big of a worry anymore. But at that point, when I maybe only had one or two of those or none at all, I just felt like I always had to go string up my rosaries. And that's what made the system. That's what kind of got me over the hump. There's a lot of those in this game where it's like you just have to get over the hump and you'll figure it out. But that's what kind of got me over the hump for the rosaries.
I did the double jump area with like 2,000 rosaries on me.
Oof.
I wanted to experience the agony and the ecstasy of Silksong, like the highest level it had to offer.
Wow.
2,000, yeah, I would. You're a brave man.
That area is quite tough platforming on its own, let alone carrying 2,000 rosaries with you. That's rough. I mean, is it frustrating again though? Like, you know, I kind of resented in a way I had to pay 20 rosaries so I could string up 60 or whatever, and I don't want to pay you 20 rosaries. I worked hard for these. You know, I just want to keep them when I die. And I did find it slightly frustrating again because I just wanted to go and explore, and in the end I had to go and spend time farming for rosaries and then go and string them up to make sure that I wouldn't lose them. And I'd spend a chunk of time just doing that when I could just be exploring. And I guess it probably wouldn't be so much of a problem if this was a smaller game, but it's not. It's bloody huge. There's so much to find and explore and such. And I don't know. I was a little bit resentful on that front. I just wish that I could just keep them. That's another accessibility option. In my story mode, you know, you just keep your rosaries when you die. That would be nice.
Yeah. I think at the end of this discussion, we'll just know Jason's story mode list, you know, of all the things that you what we would do, and that would be one of them.
I will have a pitch ready for Team Cherry. I'll just email it to him afterwards.
Please. Yeah.
Silksong also has a load of kind of game mechanics, and I think that was one of the things I really admire Team Cherry for implementing, I guess. You know, you could really see where all these years of work has gone to craft this game and have these mechanics in. You know, we've already talked a little bit about the rosaries and the shards being a couple of the mechanics in there. But I was just wondering, I would have a little chat about what some of your favourite mechanics in the game are. Like, I think for me, and I probably feel it probably is for you too, maybe, it's probably the crests and the building of those crests. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Souls player. I don't play Souls-likes or anything. You know, I think the closest I've ever got to with that is like Death's Door. and I have played Tunic. Would you class Tunic as a bit Souls-likey?
Yeah, I'd say it's a fair bit Soulsy.
Yeah. You know, I played Tunic with invincibility on quite a lot of the time, but I still played it. I did have a go at the bosses, to be fair, before I went, I'm flicking that switch. So I wasn't really clued up on making builds and what these crests actually did. But as I got more, and the more I read as well and learned, you know, you could really make this game your own. You know, you could really change the game to fit your play style and make lots of people have different experiences with the same parts of the game. I thought that was incredible, really, how they've implemented this mechanic into the game and have that effect. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, in terms of new mechanics, yeah, the crests are easily my favorite part of Silksong. I don't know, when I found my first new crest, which was Reaper for me, I said, "Oh, that's neat. I bet they put like one or two more in here." No, there's quite a few in here, and they all really change how you play. The fact that we won't get super into mechanical spoilers and whatever, but the fact that even the Beast crest changes how you heal is so fascinating to me. I think that is so neat. Yeah, I don't know. For me, when I found the Architect crest, I never went back. I said, why would I ever want to use like my special moves that cost silk when I can just have way more tools out at once? I can restore my tools in the middle of a fight, and yeah, I'm not spending silk on the specials or whatever. So also had a cool drill motion. I'm a big fan of like when animations change and look different, and so the fact that they just added a little drill swirl to your nail animation functionally doesn't do anything different really, but I like how it looks and it just made me feel cool. But yeah, I loved the crest. I absolutely loved every single time I got one. That was the thing I got most excited for, which in a Metroidvania, it's usually more traversal abilities that I get most excited for. But I would have taken another crest over a double jump easy. I accidentally beat the final boss of Act 2 without even realizing there was a double jump in the game. So
wow.
I would have gladly taken another crest over that. I will also just zoom out a little bit from the crest specifically and just say that I think the biggest improvement from Silksong, or from Hollow Knight to Silksong for me, was just your movement capability, specifically in combat. I see a lot of people are very frustrated over the Hunter, your default crest, the down attack that sends Hornet, a little bit down diagonally. And I totally get it. I was dying in Hunter's March just as much as everyone else was the first time I went through. But when I got used to it, I said, this is some of the best feeling 2D movement I've ever experienced in a game. I love that I could like just get real into a boss's face, swipe at it, jump up, do my downward thingy as he was swiping at me, and then just get out of there afterwards. I think it adds so much to the combat. It adds so much to the platforming itself. It is fantastic. Just that downward attack. And it, like I said, it's so funny that I see a lot of people being mad about it because I think it's amazing.
I'm glad that clicked for you, and it probably has for a lot of other people. It didn't for me. Like the pogoing of the red balloon things in the second area of the game, whatever. I was having an absolute mare with that, with this diagonal downward strike thing and trying to pogo off these things. And I kind of left it and I went off and I got another crest, I think one that's more akin to Hollow Knight's movements to the Knights with the actual down slash pogo. And I instantly clicked with that and I was just pogoing everywhere. And that's great in the sense that the game gave me that, like I was struggling so much with that diagonal strike, but it was so cool that I could just change this crest and it instantly gave me a different way to interact with that section of the game. And it made it instantly easier. Another kind of accessibility option in a way, that it gave. And maybe I should give it a bit more time. I have tried the Architect's crest, especially at the point where I'm at now, but because it's still got that diagonal pogo down move, I'm still struggling to kind of time it right. Where I'm so used to using the Reaper crest now, that's been my main, because I really like the way that you can run at an enemy and then push back on the joystick and then you kind of do like a slash back. And that move has been really handy in a lot of places for me. It's really worked out. And plus the pogo, I've got really used to the downward slash with that crest as well. I get a lot of results with that movement, especially in the boss before the boss I'm doing now. That was the main way in which I've found to beat that boss was with that downward slash with the Reaper. Mm-hmm. So yes, it is a really cool system that really gives us all ways in which we can make things easier again with all these different moves.
And I like that you can swap out crests. So you might, like in my experience too, I have different crests for different purposes, different gameplay sections. When I'm kind of in exploration mode, I use Reaper. I really like the range on it. I really like that it helps you like heal faster.
That's
after you heal, you can generate more silk if you attack or before you get hit again, which is cool. So that's kind of been my default exploration crest. And then during boss fights though, I really like, it's called the Wanderer crest.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a much shorter range, but you can strike faster. And so I was just kind of nerded out about the DPS with that one. So damage per second that you can do is a lot higher. So especially bosses that you can kind of get in their face and you want to get multiple attacks in, whereas maybe with the Reaper, you could only get one attack in before you have to hop out. With the Wanderer, you can get maybe 2 or 3 sometimes before you have to hop out and dodge. So I really liked that. Also, the Wanderer crest makes this interesting sound every once in a while, which I think it's like this. It does like a crit attack, which is more damage. It's a very interesting little audio cue every once in a while. And I was looking at it online. I'll get into this later, but knowledge in this game is very important. And so you're just learning how things work. Nothing is told to you. You just kind of have to ask around. And I've heard that that's doing some crit damage. So yeah, I think the crest system, back to your question, Jason, is one of my favorite elements. I think it's cool that it gives you an opportunity to flex fit the game around your desired play style. One other thing I want to mention though too that I've really liked, being such a nerd for stories, is you basically at one point get this like musical instrument, and you can use that in various places throughout the game, and it gives you a little bit more like backstory and lore, which is really cool. I've liked just kind of trying that out. It especially is useful if you see like maybe characters who have like died, or you see like a corpse or something. If you use that instrument, you might hear a little bit about what happened there, the backstory, which is really cool. I love that it's almost like a extra mechanic they gave you just for folks who really love the lore of Hollow Knight and Silksong, which I do. And so that was really cool to be able to like try that out in areas, and sometimes it would work, but sometimes it wouldn't. But I loved being able to kind of see more to the writing behind the game, which is really cool.
I mean, the fact that they even just wrote unique dialogue for like every character when you're playing the needle in near them is wild. That is such a cool feature. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm quite bummed because I kind of forgot about that tool a lot of the time. I didn't think to do that. I'm really bummed now. I just thought it was just a tool to use in certain parts of the game that needed it, and then didn't need it anymore. So it kind of went to the back of my brain a lot of the time. But this is an old man's brain that we're talking about here, so there's lots going on in this game. I can't concentrate at all. Well, if you two are good gentlemen, we're going to take a little musical break, and then when we come back, we can go full spoilery. Yeah, let's listen to a little piece of music from the Hollow Knight Silksong soundtrack, and then when we return, let's get into the spoilers. The first place I want to go is about the bosses in particular, because they're so amazing bosses in this game. And there's lots of bosses I've had experiences with that I will always remember from this game. And there's one particular boss, and it's a very decisive boss for a lot of people, but during this particular boss fight, a lot of things clicked for me and this is the Last Judge boss fight. Before this boss fight, I think I was still in the general gamer mind of like just trying to hit the boss as much as I can and just try and avoid the bosses without paying too much attention to their moves. And it was this particular boss in The Last Judge where something clicked in my brain and things started to slow down a little bit. I don't know if that makes sense. Like when I first went into The Last Judge and like he just whacked me with his ball thing instantly, and I went, oh shit, okay. I got into phase 2, and because I kind of had paid real hard attention to the movesets of The Last Judge, I don't know, like something in that particular fight I was in, things started to slow down because I was really vibing with his movesets, where to hit him, and everything else. And then from that point onwards, the game kind of changed for me. So The Last Judge was really quite an instrumental moment of the game for me. I didn't know if you two had an experience like that at all. I know you didn't really struggle that much with the bosses, did you, Matt?
Like The Last Judge is probably the one I had to refight the most. I would say it was like an hour it took me to beat it, but then like 70% of that was the run back, or maybe not 70, but it's one of the longer run backs. Even though it's not that hard, once you get used to it, it still takes like 30 seconds, something like that.
There's still lots of elements in that run back where you can just muck it up and go, oh, I'm just going to have to kill myself and start all over again.
But yeah, to your point, I think The Last Judge, that's the reason why it's one of the entrances into Act 2, right? Is because that's kind of like your test of all of Act 1. If you want to view Act 1 as almost like the tutorial section of the game, which I think you can make the argument for, The Last Judge is definitely, your written exam into Act 2. I think it's such a well-designed boss. It does everything I like about Hollow Knight bosses, where it's big, it seems very intimidating, but it also, all of its moves are very well choreographed. It only took 10 tries before I'm like, okay, he's going to do his fire spinny thing, or he's going to do his jump attack here. And then it was just a matter of executing. I loved The Last Judge. I still think that's maybe my favorite boss in the game, if I'm being honest. I think it's excellent. In terms of another earlier game boss, I think Widow also tries to teach you those same things of, hey, don't worry about attacking all the time. Sometimes you need to just chill out and learn how to avoid an attack. And she doesn't zone you as much as The Last Judge. When the fire spinny thing happens, you literally have to back off. Whereas Widow, when the bells are coming down, you should back off, but I've seen plenty of people not back off and just tank a hit just to get like 2 extra hits in that doesn't really help you too much. So I think early game, those are my 2 favorites, or Act 1, I guess. My favorite boss in the game, I won't get super into. It's in Act 3, but we won't talk too much about Act 3 in general. I'll just say I think it is a fantastic selection of bosses. They do some really interesting things. They really change up they subvert your expectations with how boss fights are even structured in the game in Act 3 in a really fun way. I think lore-wise or story-wise, my favorite fight was maybe I forget their actual name, but the dancers in Act 2.
Cogwork dancers,
just that moment where you finally kill one, and then the one is left dancing by itself, and it's easier, and it's a victory lap. It's like the only victory lap in the entire game, so that's very satisfying too. But yeah, that's probably my favorite lore boss fight.
That was incredible, because I came into that fight and I saw them like they're all just moving in you could see the movement pattern of each one, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. And I thought, oh, maybe this is going to be quite an easy boss, because if I can see where they're going to go. Obviously, Team Cherry had other ideas. But it was really good. It was really interesting, unique fight. I don't think I've ever had a boss fight like that before, where you could see the move that they were going to make and have that kind of story to them. and they managed to tell it in such a short space of time without any words. You know, that's my favorite kind of storytelling, when someone can tell you their story without any words. It's incredible. Yeah, it was a great fight, that one. That is one that's going to stay in my brain for a long time to come.
Yeah, and one thing that's really cool is the music for all the bosses is different, right? Like they kind of write music specifically for the boss fights. And if you listen to I think they're called the Cogwork Dancers boss fight soundtrack, it kind of like starts off at like a medium pace, I would say, and it just picks up like the tempo of the song as it gets harder and harder. But then at the end, it just slows down a ton, like the song does, and you know that that's the part when you're fighting like the solo dancer. Yeah, that's definitely my favorite boss from a story perspective. You find out more about their design when you talk to I think the Green Prince tells you a little about, I think someone he was involved with created them. So there's a little bit more even backstory to them there. But there's just, yeah, that's a boss fight that has like just a really strong through line of narrative, which is really cool. And I got to that last part when you fight the dancer. I thought it was like a fourth phase, and I'm like, not another phase. I can't keep fighting. This can't keep getting harder. Like it was already hard enough when they were kind of like offbeat and moving really quickly. But then it's just the one, and it's so easy, but it's also a little bit sad. You're like, you feel bad that this person has lost their companion. So yeah, I thought that was really, really cool that they designed that boss fight that way. And the music was perfectly written for that too. Yeah, a few other bosses that come to mind for me. Maybe I'll quickly touch on the Last Judge, because you guys already talked about the Last Judge. That was one where I relied on the knowledge of the community a little bit to help me with that one. And I think that's a theme throughout this for me, is I've been playing this with like Discord community specifically. Want to shout out the Gaming in the Wild Discord, who's kind of helped me like remind me of some things even I knew, like, hey, for that boss, like equip the magma bell. It'll probably help you out a ton. And so I did. And it was like that. Yeah, it really did. I hadn't really used the magma bell that much before that fight, but as soon as I put that on, it changed the game for me, which was really, really cool. And I think maybe at that time, Jason, you were doing it as well, sharing around a video of like the run back and like the best way to do it. I found a video basically that showed me a much simpler way to do the run back than what I was doing, which it was still like, you still had to do pogoing and jumping around and all of this stuff, but I didn't really fight enemies on the run back in what I ended up doing. I was like, I have no time to fight enemies. So I just kind of flew through it, a lot of like platforming, but that made the run back easier too. So all that's to say, like, I've really appreciated like the internet, the community, learning how to best approach these in ways I wasn't thinking of until I talked to someone about them. So that was really important for me too. Let me just quickly, a couple others I just want to talk about too. I'll just briefly touch on them. Everyone talks about the Savage Beastfly. That one I hated. And Sister Splinter 2 for one reason, which has gotten a lot of community buzz, is what they call like the ads, basically, or bringing in minions to boss fights.
Yeah.
That's so hard. That's so hard when you've got flying minions you're trying to dodge, and you've got the boss, and I didn't love that part, because it's the only part where I felt like there's a little bit of RNG to the fight. I feel like I can learn a boss pattern, but you throw in minions who kind of, and it was like different ones each time I fought the boss and when they came. It felt like there was a little bit of randomness there that it did. This game is very fair for the most part, in my opinion, but some of those, like when they throw in minions on some of the boss fights, it felt a little less fair. I mean, I got through it, but didn't love it. And then the last one I'll say, and I know, Jason, you can jump in too, but the last one I'll say is the boss I had to come back to. This is another thing you can do in Silksong, come back to when you're more powerful. Like the Last Judge, you kind of have to go through, or maybe you don't. I heard there's maybe another way into Act 2, which is another separate story.
There's another way.
I didn't know there was another way. I thought the Last Judge was the way. Like you're at the door knocking to like get in. But anyways, a boss I had to come back to because of it just was too hard. But then I gained some more abilities and it became easier, was the boss called the Unraveled. It was like in this dark like pit. It's like the surgeon's area, if you guys know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to double jump on that boss is pretty important. And so I had to come back later when I had a double jump, and then it was a lot easier. But that was one where I like tried a number of times and I was like, I'm just not getting anywhere. I think I need to put a pin in it and come come back. So those are some, I know I just threw out a bunch of different stories about bosses, but those were for a lot of different reasons, different bosses I enjoyed or learned something about or had a tough time with.
I want to quickly shout out, I forgot to mention him, Trobio. Not because
what...
he's like an amazing boss fight. Well, I like it well enough, but I just like the character of Trobio. I think that's worth shouting out.
He was fun, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's why it sticks out so much. And again, it was different. It wasn't just another big soldier, well-armored dude or dudette trying to, kill you. It was this funny little circus person trying to hit you with fireworks and other such nonsense. And it made it interesting, a little bit more interesting than a normal boss fight. And it was colourful and it was bright, and maybe people who have epilepsy probably doesn't enjoy it as much, I guess. But it was great. I loved Trobio and his fight. It was great.
If there's a fun boss fight, we'll take it, because so many are not fun in the moment. So yeah, you'll take a fun boss fight when we get it.
It took me a few times, but hey, the run back, he's right there, so it's not really
great.
Not really an issue.
Yeah.
The Unraveled was an interesting one for me because I didn't find it until I was well into Act 3. I was going back looking for other stuff, and yeah, I just tanked everything. I could tell if I had reached it early on in Act 2, I would have struggled, but yeah,
that was just me.
Yeah, it was basically just like a nothing fight at that point. But that it's a shame because I love that area. It's very Bloodborne inspired, which is one of my favorite games ever. And I was like, damn, why didn't I explore this area more? It's so cool, and I could have fought this boss earlier.
What area is this one in?
The White Ward, I think it's called.
I feel like I've been through the White Ward, but I haven't met this boss. I have not attempted it.
There's like a hidden key that is behind another hidden key that you need to get there. So that's
classic Silksong. A key behind a key.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. I guess this is kind of the beauty of the game, like where it just keeps throwing all these new elements at you. Like I thought I was nearly done with the game, but I just kept finding new area after area after area. And I just can't believe how big this game actually is. It's incredible. Like there's looking at the map, it just takes my breath away because of the amount of areas that you can find and explore. And some of them are really well hidden. The purified ducks, sorry. I mean, I didn't even know that was a thing until I stumbled, I was looking for something else help with. And so I went, and the purified ducks, you can go in there and this is where you find the apostle key to get to the, so you can use it in the slab if you haven't got captured. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And, I would never have found it on my own. Like it's so well hidden. Like it's like behind, it's like a hole in the ceiling that's covered in like cut curtains and such. And I would never have found it on my own. It's like in the Citadel, you've got those like creatures that come down and suck the silk out of you. And then they fire like a weapon at you from that silk.
Yeah.
I found out there's actually like a nest that you can find that's really well hidden. And if you destroy that, they don't come back at all.
Yeah, they don't respawn.
No.
This is news to me.
Yeah.
Always learning new things about Silksong, right?
And I was like, well, that's great, because at this particular moment in time, I was struggling with the high halls gauntlet to get that song, and I got rid of these enemies, and it instantly made it a lot easier for that section anyway.
Great.
And I was so grateful. But I haven't seen a lot of people talk about that either. But yeah, that was a very interesting find. And just again, I would have found that on my own, because you literally have to. I mean, I won't say, but I mean, you have to do a couple of things to reach that area, and I never would have put two and two together to find that. So grateful for the internet again. It's just crazy game.
Yeah, my favorite find was, and I'm really curious to hear yours. It sounds like that might have been yours, Jason. But do you guys know of like the Vesti crest? Have you heard of that or found that?
I found out about that about 3 days ago. So
okay, that was huge. Yeah, just adding like extra spots that you can equip tools was awesome.
Yeah.
Like finding that underneath is basically back, if I remember, in like the starting area. You can kind of open up a hole in the wall like you do in this game and find your way to a specific character. I forget what her name is, but she'll like add slots to your crests, and I think improve one of your first crests that you started with. But yeah, that was really, really cool. I was like, yes, please more crest slots. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that just turned into a permanent compass slot at that point. I didn't ever
Absolutely
need to worry about
true.
unequipping that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know how anyone could play this game without the compass. It's crazy. Crazy that Team Cherry, put that in the game. I'm like, come on. Just
should
come
be
on.
default.
Please, yeah. What do you guys think about the the minion rooms or whatever? Because that was the other part of the game I've really struggled with in a lot of instances. Like there's a couple, one in Greymore with the birds that I hated with a passion that I would have quite happily gone in there and just burned them all alive with a big flamethrower if I could, but I couldn't. I had to go through all these different waves. I have a real struggle with flying enemies in this game because their patterns are so hard to read.
Same.
So when I had a gauntlet of enemies, waves of enemies that were all birds, I was like, this is not good. And obviously, like I mentioned, the High Halls one, which is just an absolute beast. And, there's instances there where I'm like, I don't think I'm going to get through this. There was a couple of moments, especially in these minion rooms, where I'm thinking I got really close to just putting the controller down and going, I'm all right. I'm good. I think I don't need this. But after researching and looking some stuff up, and
right,
it kind of helped me to get through them. It's like in that High Halls gauntlet, I learned that you can actually get a couple of different NPCs to help you in that battle.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you've done this one, haven't you, Erik? Though.
Yeah, it was hard. It was really hard.
You've got two different options. Apparently, you can either have Chakra help you, but you've got to have acquired all the maps in all of the areas of Act 1 and 2.
Oh.
And complete her quest that's on the board in one of the areas. And then she'll come in and help you. Or, which is what I did, was that knight jousty dude that ride the bug that I met in Greymore, and they helped me out with the Moorbird one. You can do a couple of different things with that, and then he will come and help you in that battle, which I did eventually. But yet again, if I did all this on my own, I would never have figured it out. Because even to get him to help me in this gauntlet, I had to meet him and speak to him at random points through the Citadel at different points. And then I had to go to the Whispering Vault area and try and find a hidden area, which then you would have to go through, defeat a few like standard minions, and then go through back to the first shrine. And then if you went back on yourself and back into the area, he would just be waiting for you, and you would have to fight him. And then once you beat him, he would then help you. And I tell you what, doing all that was absolutely 100% worth it because he helped me out an absolute treat with that. Because especially in the High Halls gauntlet, like when you've got those two choir clappers at the end, like I had I had the tool that let you cling onto the wall so you didn't slide.
Did you just hide up there?
I literally jumped right up into the top corner and I just hung out.
Let him do the fighting.
And I let him do all the fighting. that's
I
how
totally
I
would have done that too if I could have.
It was 100% worth all that effort just to do that because I think I still would be doing it right now if I hadn't done it in that fashion. And I guess that's kind of more, I don't know. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of figuring out. But I guess that's Team Cherry still kind of giving you some help. A bit of accessibility in some ways, because they did that with the Moorbird as well. They gave you the option to have help with that, even though I cheesed it in the end, because even with the help, I was still struggling. So I found a way to cheese that enemy. And if you're listening and you don't know what I mean by cheesing, practically finding a loophole to beat in the boss without actually taking any damage. So I did that with that one. I did that with Widow as well, because that third wave of Widow was too much for my reflexes. So there's
a lot on screen.
Yeah, there's a little area in the Widow boss area where you can hide, and then you can just jump out and give a couple of slashes, and then jump back in.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You won't take any damage. So yeah, I was quite happy for that.
I feel like if you can cheese a boss, like use your knowledge to your advantage.
Yeah,
that's
definitely
great. I didn't know you could do that on Widow. Widow is hard for me too. the last phase. There was just a lot of things on the screen. It felt like it was very cluttered in there.
Yeah.
And so just dodging everything was a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, we've mentioned about the tools and the crests and everything. I didn't know if there was a favorite tool of yours that you liked using the most. Obviously the compass was incredibly useful, but there's so many different tools in the game that do so many different things that you can customize to your own liking. I didn't know whether there was a particular tool that you found and you're like, oh yeah, this is awesome.
For me, I think it was a blue one, Long Claw, that just makes your attack have more range. That was just instantly, that never came off the moment I got it.
Yeah.
Red tool wise, because again, I was using Architect, so I was all in on the red tools. The drones coupled with the blue tool that makes all your tools do poison damage.
Right.
Interesting. The cogfly?
The cogflies,
yeah. Or no, is it different?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, the cogflies, yeah.
So yeah, them but coupled with the poison absolutely shreds certain bosses. Some bosses that do, big screen clearing AoE stuff, they'll just get destroyed. But the boss in Bilewater that I don't know if either of you have done, my co-host on BitHarmony, Seth, spent like 5 hours there. And he was texting us in our group chat all night. He was like, I haven't had like a sweaty gamer moment like this in years. Like, this is god awful, but I can't stop trying to do it. I was like, oh, okay, because I beat him my second try because I just spammed all the poison drones and I literally didn't do anything. It was fantastic.
Man. Okay.
Those never came off. I'll also shout out the tax. I think you have to get those from a side quest in like Sinner's Road or Path or whatever it's called. Again, coupled with the poison, absolutely shreds. Never took that thing off.
Wow. I'm learning things right now that I'm going to use because like I said, I haven't done Bilewater yet. I've been dreading it, but I know there's some frog thing in there that I've got to fight. So I might do the cogfly poison spam to help me out.
I've reached the boss area of that area. And there, if I say correctly, there's like a couple of waves of minions before you actually get to the boss. Mm-hmm. And the run back for it is not the best either. So I went into the area and I just kept dying on the first wave of bosses because they're really like a pain because they back away from you, but then they fire out this green gloop.
And again, you're in Bilewater, so if you touch the water, which is half of the floor, you're going to get infested. Jason, did you find there is a bench that's much closer to the boss than the one all the way down?
Probably not. It's hidden in a secret area, I believe, isn't it? So
it is. It's not that secret. Like if you look at your map, you would probably be able to figure it out as long as you are willing to say that the developers are wanting to give you the worst possible time possible. You have to go down a pit and basically guarantee fall into water with the infestation going on. There is a bench down there. The problem is with that bench is you are almost guaranteed on your way back out to get infested.
Right.
I was able to not get infested once with like very exact use of the zip line or the silk line, whatever it's called. But it's very hard to get out of there without getting infested, or you might have that tool. That would have been very good. I never even found it, period.
Yeah. Yeah. Bilewater was horrible. I hated it. I think that's one of the reasons I just bailed on it. And like
just the atmosphere and the music too. Yeah. It's just everything is drab. Yeah.
Apparently there is a way to cheese that boss as well. And that is I think it's this one where you can jump into the water and hide somewhere. But yeah, I will let Erik try and figure that one out by himself. But yeah, I think that was one of the issues I had was like, I just want to get out of this area. I'm not having fun in Bilewater. And it's horrible. I hate the water. I hate the enemies. I just hated it. And I was just like, it's an optional boss. And I'm like, I hate it. I'd hate it all. I'm going. Goodbye, Bilewater. I'm never coming back. Even if you've got some really cool tool or item or ability or whatever, you can keep it because I'm not going back to that place again. Sorry. Thank you very much. But there was another area as well in Act 2, which I didn't know existed until I stumbled on it. The Sands of Kazar, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, what is this? And I was really pleased to be out of that area as well because the mechanics of this area were really cool, where you have to like hit a seed and then it grows the platforms for you to platform to the next bit. But
for a short period.
For a short period before it disappears. And there was one particular point I got to where you have to go down quite far, and there's a seed there. You whack it, and it takes you all the way up to the top. And you've got to do this in quite quick succession. And I did it once, and I was like, yes, I did it. And then I went through the door into the next area, and it was more like seeds and challenging platforming with enemies and everything. And I instantly died, and I went, do you know what? Life's too short. You can keep your seeds and everything and secrets that hide in this area. I'm going back to a boss because that's probably going to be easier than trying to platform this section. I don't know if you guys,
What's funny to me is that area and Bilewater. Again, I guess I'm the weird little freak in this podcast. I think those were the best platforming sections in the game, but I agree that they're also the hardest. But I guess that's why I like them so much. Yeah, I thought that seed mechanic was so neat, but the fact that they included doing seed platforming in the run back to the boss is crazy. Yeah. I think that was the step too far for even me, I think.
Yeah. That area sounds like it's got a really deep battle system in there. Like you go into some kind of memory and like you have to do 3 or 4 different waves of minions and then do the boss, but the boss is actually quite easy because you've had to battle through these waves of minions to get to him and such. It sounds really cool, but I'm just going to enjoy watching people do it on YouTube because, but there was lots of other cool locations in the game that I really did enjoy. And I didn't know whether there was a particular favorite of yours that you wanted to mention.
Yeah, I guess I can start. Well, first, quick question for you guys. How did you fare with Mount Faye, climbing that mountain of ice?
See, I love that. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Like, I really dig the platforming. So it was such a nice, refreshing change to just
right. There was no enemies.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of enemies. It was just like pure platforming. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what I really enjoyed. It was challenging platforming, and I did die a lot doing it. And I was very annoyed that the bench, one of the benches you had to pay for, and I had no rosaries. And I was like,
yeah, it's always the worst.
Oh, Team Cherry. So I had to go away and farm some rosaries, come back, because I knew I needed that bench, because I knew I was going to die in this platforming. But then there's another bench a bit further up, and I was like, yes. God, I love that. But that whole platforming was great.
Yeah, I also loved the platforming there. Yeah.
Yeah. And having that one tool where you can cling to a wall and just stick there, that was really helpful.
I didn't have
the
that
piton
for that.
Or something like that.
No,
so you were sliding on every surface.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful area. That's the thing. That was a very beautiful area, very challenging platforming, but I just loved the music, and it felt refreshing, like you said, to not have enemies. It just felt like pure felt kind of a little bit like Celeste, a little bit, that part of the game, climbing the mountain, for those who've played that. But in terms of areas that I really liked, the choral chambers, once you get through the gate, just the music, and it's just like pretty chill in there. There are enemies, like pilgrims wandering about, but man, it was just like such a relief to get past the last judge and have the choral chambers after that. I just loved that moment in particular. Greymoor became kind of a home base to me for a little while, especially for like rosary farming. I did a lot of that there, and I loved the barkeep. He was just kind of someone I'd always be running through his little shop and saying hello to him. So I really liked Greymoor. I didn't like the birds at all in Greymoor.
No.
So I stayed close to the ground. Yeah. The birds, the flying enemies were always the worst, but everything else in Greymoor I enjoyed. Bellheart was amazing. Again, you can like even buy a home there as well. But that's where I took my rosaries, like I was saying before, kind of a consistent place I would go back to string up rosaries. There's also lots of quests that you can do there. You can start like delivery requests there. So I felt like there was a lot going on in Bellheart. Also had some really cool music featuring a bell, which was really fun. Cogwork Core had a really cool like mechanic fitting the music, fitting the story. So I thought that was just had a lot of harmony across all of the gameplay elements in Cogwork Core. But yeah, those were the ones I loved. I really, Bywater I've avoided up until this point, because I know it's going to be bad. And then Hunter's March, I think I hated just because I tried it probably too early, and it's just really, really hard. Like just even fighting the enemies there was like they felt like boss battles. They were that hard. So when I got to the Savage Beastfly, I had almost already thrown in the towel, and then fighting that thing was just terrible. So I've definitely had my ups and downs with it all, but I would say in general, each area is designed perfectly for what it's trying to evoke from the player, like the feeling that they're trying to go with. Like in Bilewater, they want you to feel like it is gross and terrible and nasty. They want you to feel like Mount Fay is this like arduous climb on top to the mountain, and then like Coral Chambers kind of being a relief. So I think it's all very, very well designed. But yeah, there's definitely points that I've loved, and some areas where I'm like you, Jason. I'm like, I would prefer never have to go through here again if I can avoid it.
Exactly.
I don't know if you can even access it in Act 2. I haven't looked up anything about the game at this point. I didn't get there till Act 3, but again, maybe you can access it in Act 2. Did either of you find Verdania?
No.
No.
I think that might be an Act 3 thing. But
I'm guessing it is, and I won't go into it, but I think that was my favorite area just from a visual design perspective. Cool. A lot of overgrown greenery. There's like clovers and stuff. I like it when you're playing as bugs. I like it when you can see real world objects that are way bigger than you because of your scale and whatnot. Also, the story there was fantastic. It's a tiny little area, not a ton going on, but some good platforming, puzzle solving. The boss fight there adds to some lore that I think both of you would like a lot. I really, really liked Verdania a lot.
I was looking at the full map on Google because I just wanted to make sure I hadn't missed any areas before I went into the boss of Act 2. And I did see that in the map, and I did go to that area where you can access it to try and go in there, but I couldn't get in there. I couldn't find any other way, and then I did find out that it's an Act 3 thing.
Yeah, the world state kind of changes in Act 3. Again, we won't get into it, but I think that must be the trigger for being able to get in there.
Yeah. In some ways, I really liked Moss Grotto at the beginning of the game. It was such a bright and beautiful starting area, and I think that helps a lot of people. It's a much welcoming area for a lot of people. But I just really dug that area. I loved the music. I loved it was so bright. I'm playing this on the Steam Deck, and like it. And it's not the OLED, it's just the LCD version. But the colors just still popped out of the screen at me. It was beautiful, and I just liked the way in which the backgrounds worked. I can't give you the technical know-how on this stuff, But I really admired like when you got to the top before Bone Bottom, and you're running across, and like you kind of get the bright flash of the sun, and then you can see the background, the layers of the backgrounds, I guess. And it was just beautiful.
I think the environments in this game are so much better than the original Hollow Knight. I feel like it was so easy to get lost in Hollow Knight, and not in a fun way. Like every area was kind of just a variation of, hey, you're in a dark cave, and now you're in a slightly green dark cave, and now you're in a dusty dark cave. So I really appreciated that that's like Metroidvania 101 to me, is that each area should have like color coding. Each area should have a distinct look, and it's okay to get lost within one area, but I don't want to get lost in the entire map, not knowing exactly where I am in relation to everything else. I find that not very good design at all.
Agreed. Yeah, they're definitely, they all have their own personality, and but bar a couple which I mentioned, they're all pretty cool and distinct, bring their own thing to them to make the game a bit different in each zone that you go into, which I really appreciated. So yeah, definitely agree. We haven't touched on is the writing and world building. We have a little bit, but not to a great deal. And I know this is the one of the points of the game that really stand out for you, Erik.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to hear your take on this part of the game.
Yeah, this is definitely something I've thought a lot about. And I said at the beginning, like it's kind of a mystery game. And I mean that in the sense that you're trying to figure out a number of different things kind of all at once. I think the first objective right off the bat is, why was Hornet brought here? You have the opening cutscene where you escape kind of mysteriously after getting some silk, right? A little bit of mystery in that, even in the escape from her capture. But then, she's very curious and wants to know, why was I brought here? And she knows that she's being brought here by some powers that be at the top of the Citadel, right? And there's actually a moment you can try to like leave. I think it's at the very like western edge of the blasted steppes, where you can like, it's like you could just keep going like out of the entire map, out of the world. But she says, if I leave, they're just going to find me again and bring me back here. Like, I have to find out. She gives you like a narrative reason to stay. You don't have to put an invisible wall in front of her. She's like, I'm not leaving. And that, in that way, she has her own personality, right? She's, even if the player is trying to push her outside of the bounds of the game, she's like, I'm not leaving. I need to know what is at the top of the Citadel that wants me here. There's a reason for it. So that's like one mystery you're trying to resolve. The other one is you're meeting all these bugs along the way that are on this pilgrimage, right? And I think that's really cool. And they all have their stories for where they're at in life. A lot of them are just scraping by. You know, Sherma is one that is a repeating character you'll see, who's kind of just very she trusts the process, let's say. She believes, she has like very, very devout to this religion, whatever it might be, and naive in a lot of ways that you kind of have to wake her up from a little bit. And that, even that, that's the thing about this game that's different from Hollow Knight, is just every character is on this journey and you meet them at different points and they've like changed and grown and evolved from maybe who they were before. And Sherma's case in point, like, she goes in very like gung-ho about the whole thing and so much optimism, but it does start to show through. She starts to see like there are some really dark parts of this religion that I didn't think about, and why is everyone suffering and having these challenges. So I think those kind of narrative arcs of the characters are incredible in this game, and I really appreciated how it was written. And you know, you get past the last judge into the Citadel, and at that point I was thinking, okay, I've arrived, like it's going to be full of, you know, worshipers, or I'm going to fight like the final boss here, and it's just like really empty. And so you're kind of trying to figure out that. That's another mystery, is like, what happened to Farloom? Why has it fallen from grace? What happened to the Citadel? It's referred to as a gilded tomb, which I thought was a perfect way to put the Citadel. It's like, it's all very ornate and golden and looks very fancy, but then inside is really empty and kind of decrepit in a lot of ways. So there's just like these environmental stories that are happening that you're figuring out as you go. There's another quote that I really like that describes my experience with this game. I think this comes from maybe the caretaker once you at the top of the Citadel area that you talk to and kind of build camp, and they say enlightenment does not come easy or all at once, which is very much how this game is written. It's like piecing it all together for you. So I've loved the world building. I think they do a great job, not only in this macro layer though too, of like this pilgrim's journey, finding out the mystery of what sits atop all of this, what's causing all these like pilgrims to be infused with silk and then fight you, and all of that. But there's also really cool micro stories. I already kind of mentioned Sherma. A lot of these characters have really interesting storylines if you find them, like you said, Jason, before, like multiple times throughout the game. They're going to give you more and more of their background. Like, of course, Chakra, the map maker, and finding her master. You're hearing more about that story as you go. At Bone Bottom was a really cool one. I don't know if you guys went back there when the Skull Tyrant. Yeah.
Yep.
Everyone's shaking their head. That was just like a really like almost like bespoke moment for me of just like, I didn't expect a narrative to emerge in that moment. And Skull Tyrant, who you had killed earlier, rips through there again and kills one of the pilgrims, and then they have a little memorial service for the pilgrim. And I thought that was really, really cool. They cast the body down to the bottom of like the starting area of the game, and you can go down there and see them down there. It's just, there's all these little micro stories that are happening in this game that are leading up to what's happened in the grand scheme of things that I think are really cool. The Green Prince has another really cool story that I've liked, and why he was captured and all of that. So yeah, I think it's a very well written game. You do have to, you know, like I was saying before, play the needle in. You'll get some more lore. You'll start to learn some more as you talk to the NPCs. Each of the NPCs, if you return to them, has like a different set of dialogue that you can uncover. And I'm sure, Matt, where you're at now, you've even learned more things, but I've just enjoyed that discovery process of unraveling right, the mystery of this game. And yeah, just the themes I feel like of Hornet starting off kind of very self-motivated, but as she goes, starting to care about these bugs more as she goes on her journey, and like really does find some warmth in caring for them, which she wouldn't have been. You would never describe Hornet as a warm person, or bug, I should say. But as you go along in the game, you start to see a softer side of her come out, which is really cool to see her character grow in that way. And yeah, there's just I just love those themes of like her trying to kind of pull off the veil from everyone's eyes of to what this place really is, like what's really going on, and a lot of bugs just don't see it, and she's helping kind of bring that truth to others. So there's, I mean, I could go on about this forever, so I will stop and let you guys have a chance to react. But I think it's incredibly well written, and even if it is very like piecemeal in its narrative and lore, it's all adding up to something quite compelling for me.
Yeah, I think the writing in this game is, I guess I can't say it's like better from a quality standpoint as Hollow Knight, but the delivery of it is so much better than Hollow Knight. And you know, both of the Hollow Knight games to me owe even more of their design ethos and their storytelling to Souls games as opposed to Metroidvanias. I kind of consider them way more side-scrolling with some platforming going on Souls games than just straight Metroidvanias. And yeah, that even applies to how the lore and story is delivered to you, which I love. Don't get me wrong, I love, like, again, Bloodborne. Elden Ring might be my favorite story in a game ever. I cried at a wordless, just musical delivery in the DLC of Elden Ring, revealing like everything I've ever had questions about in the game in just a couple music notes in a scenery change, basically. So I love that kind of storytelling, but sometimes it can be a bit much, especially nowadays that Souls games are so popular and they're all doing this kind of thing. So for Team Cherry to say, hey, let's give them a bespoke character, that's already huge. Like that adds so much for me in terms of enjoying the game's story. Even the fact that you can go into the enemy log and you can see what Hornet is saying about all the enemies. You get a little bit of, you get like her own voice even just there. It reminds me of like, you get a little bit of Link's personality in Breath of the Wild by reading journal entries and stuff. It's so good. I think the thing I really want to shout out for Team Cherry with Silksong in terms of its story is that they did something that I've never seen any Souls-like game do, which every Souls game that I've played, at least, is always set post-apocalypse. And you just have to kind of unravel the mystery of how things got to be this way. There is a little bit of that in Silksong, but you are kind of playing in the middle of the apocalypse in this game and figuring things out as you go. And I think that small change adds so much, like the fact that there are so many more characters to interact with in Silksong than in Hollow Knight. Like, again, I like Hollow Knight, but I don't remember basically any character name in that game besides like the little grub babies. Whereas Sherma is like my favorite character of the year. Her arc is so good. She's just so cute too. The fleas, the flea circus, when you get all the fleas and get them into their spot, it's just so cute and good. But also their reasoning for putting on a circus is because of what's happening and that they want to celebrate life and stuff. And you don't see stuff like that in Elden Ring. Like everything is just horrible at all times in Elden Ring and Bloodborne and even Hollow Knight. So to get a little bit of life and characterization in Silksong, it was so refreshing to me.
You know, one of the characters, you know, the Noel, where you get the book from and you have to go around and do, you know, log all the enemies for. And
she's funny.
I loved her design and quality, but then I really liked when I revisited boss areas. You know, I just went through because it was the best way to get to an area I'm trying to get to, and that should be there, and like should be looking for all the remains of the bosses, and like you could stop and have a chat with her, and she'd have something to say about this boss or whatever, or what she's up to and stuff. And I really like that. I thought that was such a nice touch to include.
Did you get the scene with her where Hornet slaps her? Did you get to that scene?
No, I didn't get that scene.
Oh, that's so great. It's after you fill out a bunch of you do the bestiary or whatever. You're like killing different creatures and filling out, like what you said before, Matt, where like she's putting her notes on them. If you get enough of those, you go back to her and there's like a part of a dead bug on you, and that character wants to like sample it.
Yeah, I think
you know what I'm talking about.
Actually, yeah.
Okay, yeah. She like kind of inches closer to Hornet, closer to Hornet, like gonna sample this off of her shirt or whatever. Like, and Hornet just like backhands her away. It's moments like that though, where it's like so much personality, right? In just a very short scene. Kind of to Matt's point earlier, I just feel like they really gave these characters an abundance of life in who they are, and they're all very like different personalities too. I think like another one that stands out to me is Flick and Bone Bottom. He's just like a hard worker, just doing his craft in Bone Bottom. He knows he's at the very bottom of this world. Like he's not getting to the Citadel, but he says something about wish walls. He's the first one who introduces you to this like wish system, and he says they're a popular thing about Farloom wish walls, useful too. So many prayers left unanswered gives them a place to go, which I thought was just really cool. He's just a very like matter of fact, like, hey, people are praying, their prayers aren't getting answered. I'm doing something about it with my community. We're going to try to fulfill some of these prayers, by us going out and doing them ourselves, stuff like that. It tells a lot of the story of what's happening in Farloom, that people are doing that and what they're resorting to. I really like that, Matt. It's like it's mid-apocalypse. I think that's a great way to put it. Like things are falling out of sorts, but it's kind of happening as you go and see it happening to people. So it leaves you with lots of questions as to what's really going on behind the scenes here. So that's a really good way to put it.
I think through this conversation that we've had tonight has just amplified the game in general for me. Like I already kind of appreciated how much was in here, but I never really kind of took note of it in some ways. It's such an incredibly rich and detailed game that has got so much going on. And, Matt mentioned we were a bit all over the place in this podcast, but that's because there's so much to talk about in this game and so much to ponder on and discuss and everything. And quite an incredible feat, really. Like, I know 6 years is a long time, but the amount that you can take out of it is incredible, really. It's a shame that the game has had this kind of little discourse about its difficulty and different elements and stuff, because it's such a, for such a small team that have done this, it's just mind-blowing to me, really. And I'm really glad I've got to experience at least most of it. So
yeah, I agree. I'm glad that Team Cherry got to just have fun in making the game that they wanted to make. And that's what they did. And like I said earlier, once they finished it, they just released it like with 2 weeks notice, which was a little bit crazy for everybody else, but all the other developers out there. But it was just, it just felt like this has been a passion project for them that they've been working on as long as they needed to. And it shows, like, just the fidelity of everything created here is at this level. It's masterful in the way that they were able to do the art, the music, the story, the combat, and all of that. I do wish, like you were saying, Jason, more people could experience all that it has to offer. The difficulty is definitely a barrier for a lot of folks, so definitely keep that in mind. But I've been enamored by this game. I've been trying. I don't know if I think you said this, Jason. I've been trying to play like other games a little bit in between, but this is the one I always come back to. Like my mind goes back to Farloom. I can't play any other game right now without thinking about Silksong. So that's just kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I've got a game to review. I've got to stop playing Silksong to play Baby Steps for review, which will be out of embargo by the time this episode airs. So I'm quite sad, especially because of the area that I'm at in Silksong right now, being so close to the end of Act 2. But Baby Steps calls, and that's, I don't know, it might be quite a break, a nice break. It might be just as frustrating. Who knows? So we'll find out soon.
Yeah, I've heard that one might be even more challenging. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll wait and see on that one.
So episode 9, we're coming back to talk about Elden Ring. We're all going to I'm going to replay Elden Ring for the 30th time. You two are going to play Elden Ring. We'll come back. We'll talk about all the things we love about it.
No.
Dude, I am done with Souls-like games.
Too hard. Yeah. I'm not a Souls guy. It's too hard.
Yeah.
Now you are, though.
Yeah, I guess if I'm getting through this, I don't know.
To be fair, it hasn't made me enamored with the genre, if you like. Well, every once in a while, okay, cool. Something like this. Like I said, Death's Door. I really enjoyed Death's Door and the challenge that brought. And then I had like 4 year break before I tried something else, and that's kind of perfect for me. So.
Matt, did you do all the DLC in the original Hollow Knight, like the Nightmare Grim and stuff?
It's been so long, I don't even remember. I'm guessing no, but I truly don't remember at this point.
Yeah, you could probably do it, but that's like the true like sicko stuff, like insane level of back-to-back boss after boss after boss, and you just have to do them all. And I'm sure there's some of that stuff in this game. Maybe there will be with some DLC, maybe in Act 3. I don't know what that will be, but yeah, there's a point where I get to where I'm like, the payoff is just not enough for me to go through that.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
That's just, that happens.
I think for me, I never quite gelled with the combat in the first Hollow Knight. So even just at a base level, we talked about it at the start, but the mobility in Silksong, I was instantly like, oh yeah, I want to see everything this game has. Whereas in Hollow Knight, I was just kind of like, I'm pogoing. I'm just slashing until I can heal again, toss a fireball here and there. I love that there's no fireball in here, if I'm being honest.
All right, gentlemen, I think we're done with the Silksong talk. Erik needs to go. My voice is starting to break for some reason. So, let's go get out of here, guys. Thank you so much. It's been so much fun to talk about this game. It's definitely one of my games of the year, and that's impossible considering the breadth of amazing games that have been out this year. And I cannot wait for the Games of the Year season to find out where some of these games land, because it's going to be an impossible thing for a lot of people, including myself. But thank you so much for coming on and talking to me about it. It's been cathartic, and I feel a lot better.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah. If you can remind people where they can find your podcasts, where they can find you, and everything, that would be amazing.
I'm Matt. I write for so many games. You can find me on BitHarmony. That's kind of the main thing. If you want to check out other stuff, I'm like, mattmurray.bsky.profile on Blue Sky or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah, and I'm Erik. You can find me at Pages of Play podcast. That's also, I'm at Dovetail on Blue Sky. But just search Pages of Play on all the podcast apps out there. You'll find us. This has been great. Thanks for having me on, Jason. It was good talking with you, Matt. This was cathartic for me too. I just love talking about this game. I learned some new things to help me with BioWater, so I'm happy about that. Can't wait to go back there now with this new knowledge.
I look forward to hearing your stories. But thanks to you too, dear listener. I really appreciate your time, and I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you have, then please consider giving us a 5-star rating or review on your favorite podcast platform. We would be very grateful if you did. Don't forget to check out somanygames.co.uk, and if you'd like to talk to me and the So Many Games crew in real time, then you can do so over on our Discord server. We'd love to hear your Silksong stories too. We just love talking about this game. But until next time, please take care and happy gaming.
Do you find yourself playing older games and wishing that there were new discussions about those games? Enter Tales from the Backlog. Hi, I'm Dave Jackson, and on each episode, I'm joined by a guest to break down those games that may be stuck in your ever-expanding backlog. Each episode looks at one game in depth, focusing on mechanics, story, music, and other aspects with no spoilers until a clearly marked spoiler wall in the middle. If you've played the game, go ahead and climb that spoiler wall and enjoy in-depth story discussions, and if not, jump out when we warn you and maybe go play that game for yourself. We have over 100 episodes in the feed, everything from Disco Elysium to Tunic to discussion episodes about how to get into horror games, and if games actually need to be fun, or if they have more to offer. I guarantee that there's something in there for everybody. Once again, that's Tales from the Backlog, available wherever your podcasts are found.
Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun, whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen.
And I am Matt, aka Stormageddon.
And on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there. So we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.